Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturient Society.
Welcome back, writers, you beautiful people. I'm sure that you missed us. It feels again like a million years for me, but I know it
Hmm.
has not technically been 1 million years exactly.
Not quite. Yeah,
Not quite.
close, but
Close, but no dice. That over
yeah.
there is Karissa Harlow, aka Lewis, aka Catherine, her dark alter ego, and my hero. And I'm Ash O'Rourke, aka Tolkien. And if I sound exhausted and spacey, it's because I am. So
Aw.
apologies if I say things that don't make sense, or if Carissa makes a good point and I am not able to follow it for no reason at all, because my brain, whoo, pregnancy brain, you guys. I have 6 weeks to go. Oh, Lordy Beasley. And it is such a struggle to keep my eyes open at any
Aw.
point during the day. And
You
I
just want
never
to
have
sleep.
any idea what's going on. Yeah, I just want to sleep and I'm always confused. And I cannot walk 2 steps into another room without forgetting why I went in there. So
Cool.
I feel like
All the
just like
stereotypes.
it really is. I just feel like this blob, like this like amoeba that's just like kind of like moving around and like not doing much but trying really hard.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The effort
it's
is there.
fun. Yeah.
That's important.
There's so much effort going on and absolutely no progress in any area. But anyways,
Um,
how's your week been?
my week has been good. Let's see what I do. I started a small group. Like it's not through my church, but it's through one of my friends through her church.
Hmm.
So it's only three of us so far, and I think it'll probably stay that way, but it's me and my high school friend and then one of her church friends. And I got to meet her friend like almost a week ago now. Well, no, it was Friday, so only like 4 days ago. But it was really fun, and like I realized how not social I've been. Like basically Ash is my social circle. So
Yep.
and my parents. So
Hmm.
and that's fine, but it was just nice to like meet someone else. And then we're doing this Bible study, and it's like this 6 week thing about women in the Bible. And like 90% of the time, that's just like really shallow and like not great studies usually.
Hmm.
Just for whatever reason, a lot of
Yeah,
Bible studies designed for women are like
it's
but this one
true.
is really good.
Oh,
And like all kinds of like cool thoughts that I'd never really thought about before. And then we
oh,
had really
I'm
great discussion
jealous.
on it. Yeah.
Sounds
And
good.
like I made some points and they were like, oh my gosh, that's so true. I've never thought of that. And they made some points. And I'm like, how have I never seen that before?
I
And
love
so
it.
it was just like a really great conversation. And I feel like I'll be good friends with the other girl in the group. And
Nice.
yeah, and we're on very like similar boats in terms of like where our lives are. So I don't know. It was just really great. I like got
That is
home. I'm like,
so nice.
I know. I got home. I'm like, I feel like 20 times better. And I wasn't even aware that I was like not doing
Yeah.
well before.
Yep.
So it was amazing. So if you guys are involved in a church, I would highly recommend a small group because I've never done one before.
Yeah.
And they always seemed like, I don't know, like silly. I was like, I don't need to do that. But like,
Yeah.
you totally do. They're great. So
Yeah, I've been trying
that
to
was
make
amazing.
myself like step into a small group, but we used to go to small groups like as a family growing up. And I always
Mm,
remember being like, this is either so boring and useless, or anyways, I'm up like in like the kids' room and we're all
yeah,
playing, forced
right,
to hang out together while
right,
the adults talk about more interesting things. So
right.
I should probably explore that as well.
I
Ruby,
think
come
the
here.
key, what is she
Sorry.
doing? No, you're good.
She is. Come here. Come lay down. I Hang on. I will show you guys my office. Continue your story and I will
Chaotic.
set my thing in. I finally finished we finally finished with my office, and my brother moved out this weekend. So I actually have an office space. It's not
Yay.
beautiful, but it's really nice. And I can
Cool.
like close the door, and Ruby just keeps stealing things out of the trash, and she's trying to steal like knickknacks off of one of Javi's shelves. But anyways,
Nice.
continue your story.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the key to a small group is the small part because like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it was only three of us, we all got to talk and we all got to like get to know each other. So if if you guys are struggling with that, I think the key is small, not group. So there's that.
That's funny.
Also nice office. I like it.
Thank you. It's an office / guest room. So I have
Tri-Wizard cup back there.
Yes, there's a Tri-Wizard cup. You can't see, but over there's my filing cabinet, and over here by the door there's like a whole like cubby set full of like my husband's like gaming like knickknacks and stuff. And there's
cool.
like, oh, you can see Ruby sneaking onto the lay down. What's in your mouth? What's in your mouth? Oh, hang on, she's eating a plastic glove like a dummy. All right, do you want to die? Come here. Come here. Come here. No,
every day with my dogs.
Stop stealing things out of the trash. Ugh,
I don't understand how dogs survive without humans. They're just, they eat everything.
I have no idea. Lay down, Ruby. Stop trying. No, she literally just walked back to my trash can.
Like, you weren't serious. I'm going to take
she's
that
like,
back.
that was probably just a joke.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm so sorry. I interrupted your week.
No, you're good. Let's see what else. That the small group just kind of like overshadowed everything else because it was so amazing. I did do something else. I had family come in from Texas or Louisiana, somewhere around there. It's like a whole mishmash of people, and I forget who's from where.
Yeah.
But 3 of them came, so we had like family, breakfast and lunch and all that kind of stuff. Because it's my grandpa's side of the family, the one that's like sick and in the hospital and stuff. And so they came to see him, and he did this thing where they were here and he like suddenly got much better, and he was like really on and everything. And then they left and he like went back to not being so great. So I mean, it was good for those couple days. He got to kind of be himself again, but the effort just isn't there permanently. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. I think that was basically it. Last night I had to kill no less than 7 bugs in my room. These little black creepy things. And this is the creepy part, is that I found one originally in my bedroom right before I was supposed to go down for dinner, and I lost it. I was like, okay, I'll just have nightmares tonight, it's fine. But when I came back up, it was clearly on the lampshade. And for my birthday last year, my parents got me this like bug zapper. Like, it actually electrocutes the bugs. It looks like a tennis racket, but it's like a rectangle, and so you just touch them and they go and then they die. And sometimes it takes 2, but it works. So I killed it and it went great. And then I found one in my bathroom when I went to go take a shower, so I killed that one too. And then I came back to my room and one appeared on the door, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm killing that one too.
What is happening?
And then I'm sitting in my desk chair, because this is where I read, and I was reading, and I looked down and one just emerges from underneath my leg. And I don't know.
I'm horrified.
Was it in my clothes before I took the shower? Was it on my chair? Did it crawl onto the chair as I was sitting there? I will never know.
That's horrifying.
And then the killing continued. So that was just a fun night. But
oh my God. Well, you showed them, but also what the hell?
Every single time I killed one, I'm like, okay, there's no way that there's more now. Like, that had to be all of them. Normally I find 1. And so by the time it's like 3, I was like, this is it. And nope. It just kept going.
Now I feel like I have bugs on me. Gross.
Yeah. So
that's a great feeling. Wow.
Ooh. But other than that, it was a great 2 weeks. So how has your 2 weeks been? We need a name for 2 weeks. It's not a fortnight, is it?
Is it? I think it is a fortnight.
Yeah. How has your fortnight been?
My fortnight hath been pretty good. So my baby shower was last weekend, or this last weekend, and it was super, super fun. It was supposed to be a high of 97 that day, and I was so excited because that was gonna be like the coolest that we've had in a very, very long time. Didn't happen. It was a high of like 106, and it was pretty dang hot. So people definitely like left the party fairly quickly, and I was like, I don't blame you. But people were very sweet. We got a bunch of baby stuff. My mermaid friend Marissa, she came. She was the event planner for it. And she did an insanely good job. Like, oh my God. And she stayed with me while she was here. So that was also just really fun getting to hang out with her. And I had like a bit of like a GCU reunion. Because Lexi was here, one of our college roommates. And then was an unofficial college roommate, but she basically lived with us. And then CJ, my brother's boyfriend. So he was here and we all went to school together. And of course, my brother was here. So it
Mhm.
was all the GCU peeps, which was kind of funny. And
Nice.
yeah, so it was super fun. My childhood bestie, Lauren, who I mean, I've
Yeah.
known her since like first or second grade. So she came and
Mhm.
I got to meet two of her kids finally. I still didn't
Yay.
get to meet the oldest one, Percy, the boy. But her
Mhm.
kids are precious. And I got to see her mom, who I've known my whole life. It was just crazy. So it was a great time. The shower was fun, but honestly, just having people all stay with me was fun, which is
Yeah.
funny because I was telling Marissa the other day, I was like, the only person I know who's more introverted than me is, well, I know two, my mother and then
Mhm.
Karissa are more
Yeah.
introverted than me. But I'm very introverted. But it was so good because it was like all the people I like most in one place and people I
Mhm.
never get to see. And so that was fun. It would have been fun if you were here too.
Yeah.
But my solace is that you can come and see Meet the Baby and then we'll get to just like
Yeah.
hang out, you and I, which will be
Right.
nice because it was kind of hard to get to hang out to with like everybody in equal amount because there were so many people. And also
Mhm.
our house is tiny. So I have spent the entire day as I've been working running all of our linens through the wash because I think we used every single towel and every single set of sheets in this house.
Yeah,
Like
I
there
bet.
was a time there was 12 people here the other
Oh,
day.
geez.
I was like, I mean, and this
That's
is not a
crazy.
big house at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a house that's actively falling down. And it
Mhm.
was so hot outside. And I was like, bless all of you for putting up with trying to come to Texas in like the worst time of the year. Happy
Yeah,
to
so wait,
say
was the shower at like a park or something?
it was at a 90s themed beach bar. It was
Okay.
like
Because
at
I
a
was like
90s themed surf
outside.
bar.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a
Yeah.
restaurant or something. So I was like,
Yeah,
why
it
outside?
is.
But
Well,
yeah.
it's technically it's a bar, and I didn't know much about it at all because it just opened last month. They hadn't even they did their grand opening later that evening, apparently after we left because they'd
Oh,
only done a soft opening.
cool.
But it's have you seen Point Break?
No.
Well, it's a 90s themed surf bar, and it is modeled like specifically after Point Break. And
Cool.
so I thought that that was fun for us. And they
Yeah.
had like fans and stuff on the patio, and it was shaded, so it
Mhm.
really wasn't that bad. It's just that, like 106 degrees is 106 degrees.
Yeah.
So it was
Gets to you.
painful. Yeah. Um,
Anyway,
we
go on.
luckily, as of like today, I got a text from our water company and said we are back to stage 2 drought instead of stage 3. So that's nice.
You have stages. That's
Yes,
interesting.
we have stages of
Cool.
drought. We have been in like a stage 1 drought for a long time. And
Mhm.
then we've been in stage 2 drought for most of this month. And then last week we hit stage 3. And now we're thankfully back to stage 2. And we have been in a heat advisory for, I think, almost the entire month of August. So it has
Wait, so
been,
3 is worse than 1.
yeah.
Okay, got it. I thought it was reversed. You're like, thankfully we're back to 2. I'm like, no, wait.
You're like, no, no,
Reverse
no.
that.
No,
Okay, got it.
thankfully we're back to just stage 2 drought.
Mhm.
And knock on wood, but the forecast has like a whole week where it says like high of like 96, which would be just, even if we had just a couple days that were like, that would be amazing.
Mhm.
So hopefully that happens. But yeah, that's been my last 2 weeks was really just like trying to prep and get ahead on work stuff and on like getting the house cleaned and ready for, a bunch of people. And
Mhm.
then the shower, and then recovering from the shower and getting people to and from the airport and all that good stuff. And Caleb and CJ were moving out of here like at the same time all of this was going on. So it was out of control. But I do
Lots of things.
officially have space in the nursery now for baby stuff. So
Yay.
and my husband's away and I'm not allowed, no one trusts me to be by myself.
Well, you happen to
So
like the emergency room every time he's been gone or something like that. Not the
that's
emergency room,
true.
but to the hospital.
It's true. I have. So I don't blame him completely, but I literally have like partially by happenstance and partially by design. I have for the entire week he's going to be gone. I have babysitters to come and stay with me every day because everyone thinks that
Uh,
I'm going to hurt myself. They think like, oh,
yeah.
Ash is going to lift something she shouldn't and hurt herself. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that's not going to happen. But at the same time, when Lexi was here, she was helping me unpack a stroller. And she's like, what are you doing trying to lift that? I'm right here. I'm going to lift it. As I'm actively going, no, I got it. I got it. As I'm trying to lift
Yeah.
this, I definitely can't lift
It's an
it.
Ash thing. to
It
do. You're like,
is.
I got it. I don't want to inconvenience you. And everyone's like, Ash the baby. And you're like, no,
The
no, no, I
baby.
don't want to be a
I'm like,
burden.
no, I'm like, I'm not a burden. I got this. I got this. I'm
Yeah.
stronger than you think. And I've gotten so much better about that, but not better enough for people to not trust me. And honestly, they're right not to trust me. But it is kind of weird that I'm like, okay, well, Marissa left today, so my mom's coming over after work to stay with me to babysit me for the next couple days, and then Kendall's going to come over and babysit me.
Nice.
Which is so funny to me. But it'll be good. So my mom's going to help me put together the nursery, which is excellent because I have no physical energy whatsoever. And the nursery is not even remotely put together.
Yeah.
And then Kendall's going to come over and we're going to write a bunch. So that's exciting
Yay.
because I
Cool.
don't think, I'll just preface now, guys, I don't have a writing update because the last 2 weeks have been so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm trying to think if I even had any kind of time, if I've even thought about it. Like, it hasn't even crossed my mind. It has
Yeah.
been such a
Too
crazy
busy.
2 weeks.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
So, and the child is huge and aggressively does not want to be in my stomach anymore, which I can't blame it, but I need it to stay in there. And it is
Yeah.
not on board with that idea. I have a suspicion. It really feels like all of my body is like giving me signals that this baby really wants to come early. And I need it to not do that for so many reasons.
You need more time to bake.
Yeah, I'm like, you have to at least bake for like 3 more weeks, like at
Yeah.
least. And the other thing is, if it comes, I don't know. Part of me has this fear that it's going to come on Javi's birthday. And Javi's like, actually, he was complaining about it because he doesn't want to share his birthday with the baby, which I'm like, so dramatic. But now he's the one who's all chill about it. He's like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, no, I am planning a 90s themed birthday party for you. And if this baby shows up
Baby will ruin
early,
it.
yeah, it's going to ruin the party, man. So
That's absolutely what your and Javi's baby would do, though. So
that's absolutely true because it is a combination of my drama and Javi's drama in a little newborn bundle. So, oh, and here's my final thing because I'm rambling, but I will try and let this be my final thing. I don't know what this child is, but it can't be human. Like it has to be, I don't know if it's like an orangutan or like it's like an alien or it's like a mutant, like superhuman situation. But I mean, I don't understand how an unborn child can be so strong because it's stronger than like a lot of newborns. And I know this because I was sitting on the couch while people were here and we were all just chatting. And all of a sudden, baby must have stretched out its feet and stretched its arms over its head at the same time. And it was so strong that it literally forced my body apart. Like all of a sudden, absolutely, it wasn't like a reaction to the baby moving. And it was not of my own free will at all. My back arched and my shoulders and my hips got pushed completely apart. And I was just like, how on earth?
Oh my gosh.
Is the
That's
baby
crazy.
that strong? Yeah. So
I thought you were going to say that you could see like the hands and feet in your stomach, which would be
I can
crazy
see
too,
I can see the foot often. Baby heel, I often feel a little baby heel and baby does not like it when I'll like touch baby's foot and maybe like pull it away. But baby seems to like it when there's also baby butt. There's always a baby butt. I feel like poking around like one side of my belly. I know because it's like hard and round on like just one like little spot. And baby doesn't seem to mind. Like, it's like, yeah, that's nice. Give me a little butt rub. I'm like, a little butt rub. And baby's like, okay. But don't touch the feet, apparently.
Yeah.
Don't touch the feet. The feet
Hey,
are
everyone's got their
specifically,
thing.
it's like, I need those for kicking you in the ribs and lungs and bladder. So, my bad.
It's an important body part.
Yes. Oh, and I officially have stretch marks. As of like 3 days ago, I really thought I made it to like 6 weeks to go. And I was like, hell yeah, I am the first woman ever to completely evade this. God, I'm amazing. And then I was like, oh no. So I'm trying to learn to be okay with that because I also like, it's like, I don't know what it's going to look like after the fact. There's no way to like predict how it's going to actually look after the fact. So, but I'm like disappointed that I couldn't be like the first completely perfect specimen of humanity, you know?
Yeah. I mean, with a superhuman baby, you would think that you would have something.
That's what I'm saying. That's why maybe the baby is a girl because they say that girls steal their mother's beauty. But we had a vote We
Oh,
had a
did
vote
you?
at the baby shower, yes.
Yeah.
And it was Marissa built this board that said surfer or mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
And people could vote by they could put a little blue surfboard with their name on it on the boys' side, or they could put a little mermaid tail with their name on the girls' side. And at the end of the party, I look over at it. I hadn't even noticed it. And it's all surfboards and then
Yeah.
one mermaid tail.
I think it's a boy too, but
Yeah,
I don't know why
everybody.
I think that.
Everybody thinks it's a boy. I think it's a boy. Everyone there, I think even my mom was like, I'm afraid it might be a boy. And I'm like, well, she's still the only one who voted girl.
Is she? It was
But
her.
yeah, yeah.
Aw.
But I thought that was funny. Apparently, a couple other people were like, "Oh, I meant to vote girl and I forgot." And someone else said I put mine up there, but it fell down. And I'm like,
Mm.
this feels kind of like a lie. I don't know. I'm just
Or
saying.
they put them there and then God was like, nope. And he smacked him
Took them
down and
off.
said,
It was like,
it's
don't give
definitely a
her
boy.
false hope. It's
Yeah.
definitely a boy. Yeah. Anyway, so those are my last couple stories.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyways, do you have any book recs that you want to share with people?
I do. I read a book. You may have heard of it. It's called If We Were Villains. And
Did you
yep,
really?
I finally read it.
Okay, I need to
And
know. I'm
yeah.
scared. Okay, what did you think?
Okay, I did really like it. I didn't love it, but I did really like it. So, yeah, I'm gonna do a Catherine's Corner on it. But
Oh, yay.
yeah,
What did you just give me give me a spoiler for Catherine's Corner.
okay.
What did you like about it or not like
Okay,
about it?
so I loved all of like the parallels to Shakespeare, right? It's like
Right.
obviously, so like the act and scene structure, and I like the frame story where it's going back and forth
Mm-hmm.
between like 10 years in the future and then the stuff that's going on. Like I guess I think of it as the present, even though I guess it's the past. So
Yeah.
however you want to say that. And I really liked the like tragic themes that were going on because like
Uh-huh.
it's basically a Shakespearean tragedy
It is.
about a
Yeah.
bunch of people that are really into Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So it
It's
was very cool.
crazy. Yeah.
And I like the setting too, where it's like this fancy kind of pretentious art college kind of school where like
Yeah.
you have like the dancers and then the Shakespeare nerds and like the
Yep.
artists and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was cool too. I don't really know why I I don't know. I'm kind of like not sure why I didn't love it. I think it's because I had a certain expectation that it was going to be kind of plot heavy, and I feel like it was definitely character heavy. It was definitely
Yeah.
like a character study. And I get like
Mm-hmm.
the Shakespearean reason behind that, right? Like it's
Yeah.
definitely like what is a tragic hero and what makes a tragic hero, because
Yeah.
the idea of the tragedy is like at any point in the story, if someone had just made a different choice, this thing wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
like every choice they made felt like the only choice in the moment.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to see that play out. But then it was very well written and excellently done. It was
I
just
was
I
gonna say,
didn't
was my assessment of the craft wrong,
yes.
or is it really well written?
It is really well written. But I didn't like a lot of the characters.
Oh
So
no.
they're
The
like I
characters
really
are
like
all
Philippa.
they're all
I
yes.
feel like I am Philippa.
Philippa's was my favorite, and I
Yes.
kind of hated everybody else.
Yeah, everyone's awful. Like I started out, I'm like, all right, Oliver's cool. And like, I kind of like Ren and I like James. And then
Hmm.
steadily they all dropped off. And I'm like, now I
Yeah.
hate Meredith and Richard more than I ever did before. And now I
Yeah.
hate Alexander for reasons I didn't think I'd hate him. And I didn't think I'd
Yep.
hate Ren, but I do. And so
Yep.
they just slowly drop off.
I know.
So,
But
but
here's the
Philippa's
thing.
great.
How many theater kids do you know? Because no offense, theater kids, I'm one of you also. But theater kids are either, I feel like 1 in 10 is just like super likable, and the other 9 are kind of insufferable.
Yeah, I will say there is this definite like it starts out with like just the 7 of them and they're all just kind of interacting, and then as they interact with other people you're like, oh, they're all jerks.
Yeah,
They're terrible
they're
to people
all
that aren't into
jerks.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's so true. But I fully agree. Philippa was the only one I was like, okay,
Mhm.
Philippa, I hardcore admire you. All the others, I was like,
Yes.
y'all cannot make a good choice to save your life, and you guys are all kind of
Yeah.
pricks.
Yeah. But then on top of that too, I
Oh.
just feel like I'm not sure. I can't remember what you told me about it and what other people have said about it, but I saw the twist coming. I don't know, is it a twist? Like there's a murder And I totally figured out who had committed the murder
Oh,
like
really?
200 pages early. So I was
I
sitting
did
there, I'm like,
not.
it can't be that person. It's got to, there's got to be a twist. And then it's like the reveal that it's this person. And I'm like, yeah, I've known that for like 200 pages. What else you got?
No, you're just
So
really good at see the twist because I did
yeah,
not. I don't think
there was
Kendall
this,
predicted it either.
okay, because there was this little hint earlier. I don't want to tell you guys because I'm giving it as a book recommendation, but basically on the night that this thing, the murder happened, one of the people was where they normally weren't. And Oliver, who's the narrator and the main character, he kind of comments on it like immediately after and then
Mm-hmm.
dismisses it like, oh, no, that person wouldn't have done that. And I was like, I feel like he did, though. I feel like that's what happened.
That's hilarious
And
because you were
it was just
naturally
like,
suspicious.
yeah. So, like, these little details. And I was like, and there was motivation. And then he gets mad. I feel like I spoiled the gender. Sorry. But he gets mad at Oliver for making himself look suspicious. And I'm like, this isn't even qualified as a murder yet. Why are you so upset about that? And so I don't know. I kind of saw it coming. And I don't normally see that coming. I'm
That's
normally
funny.
stunned by murder mystery reveals. So
Huh.
I think I was just a little like, I wanted there to be a little more. I
Yeah.
kind of wanted it to be where they were all kind of in on it, and Oliver was the only one that hadn't been
That's kind of what
involved.
I thought was going to happen, and that
Mm-hmm.
what wasn't what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, but still very good and obviously very well done. And I loved all like they're constantly talking in Shakespeare, like soliloquies and like banter and that kind of stuff. And so that was
Yeah.
all very fun. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot. I think I'm going to give it a 4 star, 4 stars.
Nice.
So it's
I feel
worth the read for
satisfied.
sure.
I'm
Yes. You were totally
so
right on
glad.
like
It only
the
took you
craft stuff.
years. Yeah.
I know. I don't think it's been that long. I think it's been 1 year. How long
Has
have
it?
I?
I don't
I don't
know
know.
how long you've been dodging it. I don't know, but I'm glad. So there you have it now,
Yeah.
a bona fide Carissa recommendation
Yes.
for If We Were Villains by
Definitely.
MLBO.
And
Because
I
that
feel like if you're really into Shakespeare and you don't guess the twist coming, I think you will love it. Like, I think
it's
that's
true.
definitely, yeah.
It's true. I totally agree.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if I have any book recs. I am currently reading oh, it's right back, it's right behind me. I think it's called Only One Left by
Mhm.
Riley Sager. I mentioned it
Yeah.
last time. I thought I was going to be done reading it by now. But the
But baby
last two
shower.
weeks, yeah, baby shower and so many people coming into town and just insane. And I've had a crazy amount of like work at my job, which is great because I love my job. But
Mhm.
also, man, it has been a crazy hectic 2 weeks. So I'm not done with it, but so far I really like it. I'm a little more than halfway done. I think it's another kind of like murder mystery situation.
Mhm.
Like there was a murder, well, there was like this whole family aside from one person in the family were murdered like
Yeah.
in the past. Oh, and it's funny because, well, not obviously the death part's not funny, but it's interesting because in my head I'm like think that I'm reading in the present, but the story that's taking place now, like decades after all these murders happened, is taking place in like 1983 or something, or
Oh,
1987 or
yeah.
something. So the present in the book is still in our past, but
Mhm.
but then when they talk about like the string of murders, they're
Mhm.
talking about like I think it's in like the 60s or something.
Yeah, like If
um
We Were Villains was like that too. It takes place
yeah.
in the 90s, and so the 10
Yep.
years later is '07. So
Yep.
I'm like, wow, that it feels like that should be a lot closer than it is, but this is definitely the past.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
weird. And so that's really cool. So
Mhm.
far I'm really enjoying it. I'm sure that I'll book rec it to you guys because I've never not given a recommendation on Riley Sager. Very, very good author of thrillers and murder mysteries.
Yep.
Um, I I don't know. I haven't finished it yet. So
Cool.
I have a lot of unresolved feelings about it. But
Still not sure. Don't
still
want to jump
not
the gun,
sure.
but
Yeah, exactly. And then I've got this other classic that I wish I could remember the name of it, and I cannot currently, but I'm sure I'll bring it up again because I always just tell you guys what I'm reading. But I think that Kendall and I are going to cover it on a episode of That Pretentious Book Club, which we have
yay.
not done in a while. That's our sister
Yeah.
podcast. If you guys are new here, it's a comedy podcast about books, and we have been on like an unofficial hiatus for a while just because we're both busy, and trying to read a book a week has been a lot.
Mhm.
So, but I think because she's going to be over here anyways this weekend, we were like, oh, we'll get to it. Of course, I also thought that I would be done with this book because I didn't think that the last 2 weeks were going to be as crazy as they were. So
Yeah.
we'll
Who
see,
knows?
but who knows? But I'll keep you guys updated on that. What about our word of the week?
All right. Our word of the week is imbroglio. Imbroglio. Just fun to say.
Imbroglio.
Imbroglio. And it is a complicated disagreement or a confused or chaotic situation. And you know what I thought about? Do you
What
remember when we visited Lisa in California and we watched that movie with Kevin Bacon and like a ton of other people? Was Steve Carell in it? I don't know. I don't
was it the
remember.
Bigfoot
But
one?
no.
No.
It's like
Okay.
a chick flick kind of thing. And it's not Love Actually, but it's like a similar title to that. And it's all these like really boring stories happening. Like there's this girl dating a guy, and there's this like couple that's thinking about getting a divorce. And then at the end, all of the stories come together and all the people start fighting because you didn't realize that they were related. Like the dad was accidentally giving like really sexual advice to his daughter's boyfriend because he
Oh
didn't
my
know it was her.
God.
And like Kevin Bacon is like trying to get with the wife, but they're not divorced yet. And so the
Oh
husband is like
my
really upset and
God.
they get into a fight. And we're all just sitting there. We're like, this movie suddenly got so insane. And that's what I thought about. That's
An
an imbroglio.
imbroglio. Imbroglio.
Yeah,
That is so funny. This sounds like an Italian word, so I want to read it like
it does.
imbroglio because of
Yeah,
but it's not. Imbroglio is probably
imbroglio.
correct.
Yeah, it's
Imbroglio.
fun to say. But yeah.
That's so funny. I like that the word bro is in it. I'm trying to find a way to use it, but
Oh,
my hormone addled brain
imbroglio.
cannot.
I know. I can see
Imbroglio.
you, the wheels turning. And you're like, I got nothing. I can only use it correctly.
I can only use it correctly right now. It's actually, you guys think that I'm just dumb. It is actually a lot of work to do this whole language thing wrong, just so you know. I put in a lot of effort for you guys. I really
Yep.
strained the noodle to try and entertain myself and everyone besides Karissa with
That's right.
getting our words of the week incorrect. Imbroglio.
I thought of it's an imbroglio-ish situation, and I hate that that
Yeah.
came to mind. But
Imbroglio-ish. Look at you. Look at you
I make up
supplying
for
what I
your weaknesses,
can't.
Ash. So
Thank you so much. I like it. Also, it reminds me of the word like embroiled, which is often I feel
ah,
like used in conjunction with like situations that have a lot of
conflict.
conflict. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like not it's probably not even like the same like root spelling because that's an
That's me.
EMB exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the same, but it's funny that it feels kind of like a
No, I'm saying.
coincidence that the
Yeah.
two sound similar and they could be used in similar contexts.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But yeah, imbroglio.
Imbroglio.
So if there's like a bunch of people fighting or drama, I was also thinking Mean Girls, like that scene where everyone starts fighting each other. That would kind of be an
Mm-hmm.
imbroglio of a
An imbroglio.
situation. Yeah.
I'm thinking of the no, because now I'm thinking about Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
The every time that the Montagues and Capulets get into a fight
Yeah.
in the town square, another
Yep.
imbroglio. Yeah.
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I cannot think of a way to mess this word up. I really
It's too
tried, you
good.
guys. I'm
And you're
sorry.
too pregnancy brained.
I'm too pregnancy brained. If you guys have a good recommendation for how to misuse this word in the best way possible, please do message us. We are the Scripturient Society on social media, and you can email us. I need you guys to step up and make up for
Help us out.
my problems.
Oh
um,
gosh.
yeah,
Or
hopefully
we
I'll
could
be
just
smart again after the baby,
use
but
it
people kept
correctly.
being like, welcome to the rest of your life. And I was like, I cannot be this stupid for the rest of my life. You
No.
don't understand. I can't do it.
I will say though, I feel like when I turned 25, like the ability to pull vocab words from my brain just went, it
Yeah.
just plummeted. Like I'll
Yeah.
be sitting there, I'm like, what is the word? What is the word? And then like 10 days later, I'm like, the word was table. And
Yep.
I, for some reason, I could not retrieve it from
Yep.
my memory bank. So I don't know.
Fully. I agree. I was already experiencing that. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's not even being pregnant, it's being so excessively pregnant and having only
Yeah.
6 weeks to go, where like your body is working so hard to create and just generate life for this like full on little person that everything else that your body is supposed to do, like, I don't know, think like it's like that is not important. We are
Yeah.
not focusing on that right now. You don't need
Isn't
that function.
necessary. Yeah.
So but I have to try just to, because of the world we live in, and I can't just be a
Mhm.
potato. And I'm like, I only have the functionality of a potato at the moment. Like that's all I
Right.
can do.
Uh,
Oh my goodness. Which which is why I'm kind of glad that you picked the topic that you did today, because this is
yes.
your area of expertise anyway. So I'm
It
just going to
is.
potato and relearn everything baby made me forget. Uh,
Cool.
which brings us to our theme. Do you want to
Yes.
share our theme with the listeners today?
Yeah, we're going to talk about grammar, and it's not boring, so don't turn this off.
They're already gone.
I know. But if you stuck around, basically, I want to talk about like little grammar hacks you can use to like fix your word count if you need it to be lower and or make your writing more concise. That's
Yeah.
Ash's thing, right? She's always like, you want to be as concise as
Yes.
possible. It's also a Hemingway thing. That you want to use as
Hmm.
few words as possible. And also for I feel like most writers, especially new writers, the issue is getting your word count down, not up.
Typically,
So
yeah.
yeah, so these are just going to be some ways that you can lower your word count a little bit if you use
Yeah.
them throughout.
And also, by the way, if you work in writing in pretty much any industry, whether it's like marketing or PR or whatever it is, I know that none of that sounds like fun, but if you end up doing that because that's where the work is and that's where your experience is, obviously that's what I do. This is also super important. Like, I cannot think of a single application where you, especially outside of fiction writing, where you don't want to go for concise as possible. So this stuff is absolutely helpful wherever you find yourself writing. If you can nail this, not only will your writing be so much more impactful, but also you are going to be real valuable to the
Yeah,
workforce as a writer, which is never a bad thing to be.
definitely.
Yeah.
So the reason I want to talk about this is because last night I decided to reread The Elements of Style. Have you ever read that?
No.
Okay, I have. It's fun.
Is
It's
it
just like
fun?
I was reading the introduction and it's basically this book. If
Nerd.
you guys, I know, fair enough. But if you guys don't know what it is, which is fine, but it was this book written by, I think he was like a college professor, and he wrote it specifically for his class, and it's just a bunch of grammar rules. And he's like 90% of the time, he's very just like, this is the rule, this is what you do. And then he even has
Hmm.
a whole section about like when style comes into play, maybe you break these rules and this is how you know when to break them and all that kind of stuff. But then like
Yeah.
10% of the time his rules are just like weird, and he's just like he doesn't like the word, what is it, forceful. He likes the word forcible, and I'm like, but forceful is a word, so you can use forceful.
Yeah.
But
Forcible
he like
isn't a
doesn't
word,
like
is it?
it. It is, they're
Forcible's
both words.
Oh, is
I think
forcible really? I don't
I
like
think
it.
it
It
is, but
sounds like
people use forceful.
forceps. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's a better word.
it's right. It's clearer, I guess. And
Yeah.
he does have, I can't remember any other examples, but he'll have these two words and he's like, this one is unclear and this one is specific. And I'm like, they mean the same thing. Why are you?
Yeah, strong disagree. He's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And he has his possessive rule where he, so like if you have the name Charles, do you put
Hmm.
apostrophe S or do you just put apostrophe because it already ends in S?
Yeah.
And I tend to be a just apostrophe person. And
I
he's
used
like,
to
you got to
be.
add the second S.
Yeah, I used to
But
be, but then
yeah,
other people kept correcting me on it because I guess it's more acceptable, I guess,
yeah,
to do that. And I hate that. And they're like, just use the
yeah,
apostrophe if it's a plural possessive. And I
yeah.
I don't like
I
it.
don't like it.
Anyways, I prefer just the apostrophe
I
as well. But
Yeah, and because I feel like having that extra S is confusing to the eye when you're reading it,
yeah.
right? So
And
that's my
also
argument there. But
we could be more efficient with our speech too. Like if we were like, instead of being like, oh, that's Charles's apple, which is hard to say, by the way, we could be like, oh, that's Charles'
mhm,
apple.
right,
It's
and you just
should be the
know it's a
same
possessive.
sound.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I'm
yeah,
fully in favor of that. I vote that
yeah.
we all go to making that the standard because it's
I
annoying
agree. I
trying to use the
know.
other way.
I hate it. So anyway, I don't agree with him 100% is the point.
Hmm.
He does use the Oxford comma. He calls it a serial comma, but it's basically the same thing. And so I
Hmm.
appreciate that. He's
Yep.
obviously correct there.
Yep.
Um, and
Obviously
um,
correct.
obviously. But anyway, it was just really, for me, it was a fun to kind of like go over the grammar rules again. And so a lot of these occurred to me as like, this is actually just a good way to cut words if you need to in your manuscript. So that's what we're going to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yay.
Okay. First point, use active voice rather than passive voice.
Yes.
So this is obviously going to depend on what you're trying to achieve with the sentence, right? Sometimes the passive voice is good, and he even acknowledges this, right? There's there are times when you want to use the passive voice if the subject of the sentence needs to be kind of the most important object in the sentence. So if I say Ash is, I don't know, sitting in her office, right? Ash is obviously more important than office. So you want to start the sentence there. But if for whatever reason, the office is the most important noun in that sentence, you would want to start it with the office where Ash is sitting or something like that. It's not a full sentence, but you know what I mean? So obviously there are going to be some exceptions, but basically you want to use active voice as much as possible. A, because it's more direct and it creates less confusion. But B, because it also uses fewer words. So the example I came up with is the passive voice would be the jar is filled with juice, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. But you could also say juice filled the jar, which is only 4 words. So obviously one of those, depending on what you're saying, maybe that active voice sentence doesn't work very well and it would undermine your purpose, in which case you need to take the hit and have the 6-word sentence. But if it is the same or better with the active voice, change it.
Typically, if given a choice, you should probably choose active voice in most scenarios. There's definitely exceptions, but and that's also something, no matter what field you work in, by the way, if you work as a writer, people will absolutely ding you on. And if it's not fiction, they will get you pretty much every time on that one. They pretty much only want you to use active voice. So that one can be hard kind of to, it can be kind of like a hard like formula to recognize at first, because unlike other grammar rules that I feel like are more just like easily formulaic, you know, that one is like, you have to like recognize the way the sentence sounds when you write it and when you read it. So it definitely takes practice. So don't beat yourself up if people keep, you know, correcting you on it. But that's also why it's great to have someone who's looking for that specifically go over your work, because it'll help you start to recognize what the difference is.
Right. And if you guys are like, well, I don't really know the difference between passive and active voice, or you get kind of confused, basically you have like the subject and the predicate in the sentence, right? So in the active voice, the subject is doing the verb, is the part of the sentence that's essentially doing the action of the sentence. In the passive voice, the subject is something that is being acted upon. So like saying the boy kicked the ball versus the ball was kicked by the boy. So the first one is active, the second is passive. So again, emphasis is going to matter there, but it's also more words to go passive. So
also if you could say something like the ball was being kicked, there's like a lot of like being and to be in the sentence. Like for me, that's how I started to come to recognize passive sentences, because usually if you have like a to be kind of situation going on somewhere in the sentence, it's probably passive. Probably there's a way to say it in an active voice that's possibly better. So just practice and like looking for the warning signs if you're not as good at the traditional, what do you call it when you like break out a sentence and you like choose all of its different parts?
Diagramming.
Yes, if you're not really good at sentence diagramming, which I've never been great at it. I suspect Karissa's pretty good at it.
I did. I had a teacher, an English teacher in high school, who was really into sentence diagramming, and there was never really an opportunity because you're not teaching grammar really at the high school level. But one day we had nothing to do, so she's like, I'm just going to sit here and diagram a bunch of sentences and you guys can pay attention, or you can do homework, or you can talk, you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to diagram sentences.
I wonder what
everyone's like talking. And I was watching, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
So
I was like, can I do one? And she's like,
that's
yes.
hilarious.
And then I went up and did it and it was great. So
I want to be good at it. And I've always wanted to be good at sentence diagramming, but my brain does not like it. Does not.
Well, and a lot of it too is you probably are better at it than you think. It comes mostly naturally, because when you're first learning a language, you're learning all those rules. It's just that it then becomes so second nature that you stop doing it consciously. And when there are problems in sentences, it's because you are writing the way you speak, not the way that you know it's grammatically correct. So, I mean, a lot of times, yes, reading stuff out loud can be a good way to decide if it's grammatically correct, if it like sounds right. But if it sounds too colloquial, that might also be a sign that it's not grammatically correct, because we speak
very true,
right?
And then you have to assess, is it worth it? Is it more important for it to sound colloquial, or is it more important for it to be correct? And that's something you have to weigh. So
Yep.
Just like we say all the time, we should just put it on a t-shirt at this point. I feel like
Yeah.
it's totally okay to break the rules as long as you know why you're breaking the rules. Like break the rules with intention. Don't just break the rules because you don't know the rules. So
Yeah.
this is grammar is absolutely a really big part of that. You definitely need to know what the rules are before you can break them, because then when you break them, it like makes like an impact because you did it with a purpose. So
Yeah.
definitely not something you can just like skate by. I think some people are like, I'm a
Right.
great storyteller, so I don't need to know grammar. And I'm like, you do, you do though.
It's allowed to be the part of the job you don't love, but it is part of the job.
Yep.
So it's every job you have, you're going to have pieces of it that you don't like as much as others. And that's just the hit you have to take if you want to be a writer,
It
or
is true.
the delight you get to have, depending on your point of view.
Or the delight if you're a Karissa.
The delight of your life. Who knows? Either one, depending on what kind of person you are.
Too funny.
Anyway, the next one, and this was something I'd never really thought about before, but I think it might be useful to you guys, is that he says to not use the word not unless it's necessary. And basically his point is that you want to be phrasing things in as much as possible in the positive rather than the negative. So if you have a sentence like, he was not often on time, there's not technically anything wrong with that sentence, but saying he was usually late is more concise and more direct.
Yeah.
And positive.
Yep.
And the point he made is that readers are eventually going to get tired of you telling them what is not true. So you want to tell them more often than not what is true, so that it's not, you know, if you're trying to tell someone what a room looks like, you don't say the walls are not pink. You say the walls are white or whatever, right? So again, there are going to be times when that's going to be the opposite. Where saying not is if you're purposefully trying to undermine something, or if that's a colloquialism you're trying to use in dialogue or whatever, but basically using not as little as possible, and not just like arbitrarily eliminating it from sentences, but saying something is not difficult, right? There's a word for that, easy. So as much as possible, just use the word easy, and that eliminates one word, but it's also clearer and more to the clarifying sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. That one is much shorter than the first one. So
like that one's it's simple, it's to the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the purpose of the rule.
Exactly. Kind of on that subject, then I'll jump around here in my notes. You should eliminate the word that as much as you can. So this is something I almost think I overdo it sometimes. You have to determine how necessary that is in the sentence, because sometimes it is going to be necessary. So the example I came up with is if you're trying to say something like, he hates that his nose is big. You need that, because otherwise it's he hates his nose is big. And that doesn't make any sense. So that is obviously serving a purpose in that sentence. But if you're saying something like, he believes that she is telling the truth, well, he believes she is telling the truth is a perfectly fine sentence. So if it's not necessary for the clarity or I don't know, just the understanding of the sentence, take it out, get it out. And you would not believe how many that's you use.
It's true.
It's so
and what
many.
I like about this rule is it's very easy to tell if you need it or not, because you can literally just read it out loud. If you can say it without a that, it will make sense. There will be no question that the sentence makes sense without it. If you have to have it to make sentence make sense, you will know. So that's what's really nice. It's a very easy to apply one. I feel like there's not much excuse to not try and apply that rule. Yeah.
And if you're writing in Word or something, you can literally just search for that and then go through each sentence and say, okay, is it necessary here? Is it not necessary there? And you'll probably get through your whole manuscript and eliminate at least, I don't know, I usually eliminate a couple hundred words just on that. So that can help,
similar note, although it's not technically like a grammar rule, this is just like my advice. I would always do a search for the word just, because we use the word just a lot of times when we don't need to, and it actually retracts from the meaning of the sentence. It like cushions it for no reason.
Yeah. It's just raining outside. Well, it's raining outside is a good sentence. So why are you saying just?
Why are you saying it's just raining outside? Yeah, exactly. It like takes away from, it detracts from the sentence. So unless your intention was to detract from the sentence, then you don't want it. So kind of on a similar note, it's not really a grammar rule, but it's something, if you're going to go ahead and those are two things I would definitely use your search function for.
Yeah, it's a good segue into the next point is I call them qualifiers. I think they're technically called intensive adverbs, which
Oh, I
is,
call them qualifiers too.
yeah. So that's words like just, it's gonna be words like very or a little bit or so or truly, really,
Mm-hmm.
actually, extremely, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You want to mean what you write, right? So if you're saying, um, it's raining outside. I'll just use that example again. Saying it's actually raining outside is a little different and it does undermine the purpose of the sentence. So again, there are going to be times when that's necessary. If, someone says it's not raining outside, you say, actually, it's raining outside. Maybe it's necessary there. But 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, you want to delete truly and actually and really. I use
Mm-hmm.
actually a lot. I notice, especially like on first draft, I
Yeah.
tend to use actually, like she actually thought he was, I don't know, taller than her or something like that. And I'm like, why
Yeah.
am I putting actually in here? And it's originally going to feel really strange when you take it out of the sentence, but it is almost always better. And when you get
It
into a
is.
practice of eliminate, like if you go through and eliminate all of the actuallys in your draft, and then you're reading through it and you feel like, hey, here's a place that I actually think I should put it, right? I just used
Yeah.
actually.
Actually, yeah.
That I actually should put it. Then you know that I'm going to say it again, that that's actually where you should place that actually. Am I even
Well,
making
and here's
sense?
the thing.
Half these sentences are actually.
We definitely use it more in speech, and it is a
Yes.
very useful word. But
Mm-hmm.
when you read it, it has kind of a similar effect to the just, where it kind of like
Mm-hmm.
takes away a little bit. It detracts some. There's usually if you have a sentence where you can't quite get the meaning across without the word actually, it means that there's a better way to reword the sentence.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of
Usually.
intentional thought, which if we did that with every sentence out of our mouths, we would never say anything.
It's true.
So it's, hang on, I have to let Ruby out. She heard my mom came in, but
Oh, she's like, let
anyways,
me see her.
that's the word actually.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Ruby, you're not in charge. Actually, you're not in charge. Oh my goodness. You guys get the beauty of seeing
Full pregnancy view.
yeah, my enormous belly.
Yep.
And I don't fit into any of my clothes. You guys get to see my pajamas. I mostly wear pajamas and shorts and tank tops and oversized shirts. Although my XXL shirts, by the way, do not fit now, which is
Oh, no.
yeah, which is just wow. So
Right.
I'm not going to tell you what I weighed at the doctor the other day because I will cry. It was so
Oh.
shocking. I just have to like no judgment until this baby comes out,
Mm.
and then give me a few weeks and then I'll start judging myself again.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
healthy. Um,
Anyways.
so along with that, actually and truly and so and stuff, the best rule of thumb to keep in mind here is that you shouldn't rely in general on adjectives or adverbs. There are times for them. The key word is rely, right? Don't rely on them. It doesn't mean they're never good.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself overly using them, it probably means you're not picking strong enough nouns and verbs.
It's
And
me.
so,
I love adverbs. I have a
yeah.
problem with this. I will happily admit it to you guys. Well, not happily, but I will openly admit it to you guys. This is my big struggle bus area.
Yeah. And the hard part is that there is a piece of this that is voice and style. Is that sometimes some people just use more adverbs, and that's fine. I don't want to say that you need to cut all of your adverbs if you're just an adverby writer, right? But you do want to make sure that you're using the adverb, because that adverb verb combo or the adjective noun combo is stronger than it would be with just a different
word. Exactly. Yeah. That's definitely my thing. I need to I definitely use more adverbs than the average writer, probably. But definitely some of the time I know it's just because I don't have a strong enough word choice in the rest of the sentence. So again, break the rules, but know when and why you're breaking the rules. And I know for me, this one's very hard. So it's always good when I have people review my work and I'm like, call me out on my adverbs, please, because I will just skate right past them. Because to me, I'm like, yeah, that looks good.
Right. Well, and part of the problem is that when you're writing your first draft, unless you really have these ingrained in your head, you're very likely to be breaking them purely accidentally, just in like that rush of the first draft. You're like, I'm trying to get this scene down. I'm not paying attention to, number agreements and pronouns and all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to get the story out. But when you come back to it, sometimes you're like, yeah, that sounds good, because it sounds like something you would say. It reads fine. But you have to like look at all of the individual words and say, like, I always think about dialogue tags, right? Like, he said loudly. Like, you can just say he shouted.
Yep.
And that's, eliminates one word, and it's getting basically the same thing across, but even more clearly.
Yeah, even more specifically.
And more effectively.
Yeah.
So just because it technically reads correctly doesn't mean that you should keep it that way, which I guess is the art of editing. So
it is, yeah.
I
think that's the thing too, is I think a lot of people view grammar rules as grammar rules refer to what is specifically right, like technically right or technically wrong. And that's not true necessarily, because you can use different choices to like different, grammar rules in the same, like for the same situation, and achieve something different. So if you are like me and part of you has always been like, I'm just not really into grammar because I feel like boxed in by all these rules. It's not necessarily like a black and white situation as much as it can seem like it is. There's still a lot of gray areas, and when you choose how to apply and which grammar rules to apply in different situations. Because some rules can like nullify the other ones, or one rule might be more applicable for that sentence than another one. So it is a lot more flexible than it sounds. But if you know what the grammar rules are, you actually have a better idea of what you have to work with, which is actually opens more doors. It's just if you're somebody like me, you're probably like, I don't want to be told what to do. But we have to get past that, you guys.
Sometimes you do need to be told what to do. It's okay to have some structure.
It is. Yeah,
it's good.
Absolutely.
Even. Yeah. But that is another point that Strunk made in Elements of Style, that like when you have this, technically correct sentence or technically incorrect sentence, but it sounds strange to be correct, or the correct form is just like not working for you, you can just get around it by changing the structure of a sentence, which I do a lot. Like if I come across like a sentence and there's something wrong with it, but I can't tell, I just change the sentence because it's easier, and that's totally okay too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because there are a lot of different grammar rules that are working together. So just because it's not working in that form doesn't mean it won't work better or just equally as well in another form.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Okay, which one should I go with next? Okay, so this one is, I guess I'll call them qualifier phrases, and they just make again, we speak this way and they make your writing more wordy. So something like the fact that, right? So the fact that he was walking down the street, da da da. Just say he's walking down the street, right? You don't need to say the fact that, because first of all, if it's really a fact, then it doesn't need to be called a fact. Right? That's just redundant. And if it's not a fact, then you're being inaccurate, and you don't want to do that. Another one is in the case of. So in the case of English classes, da 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 da. Just say in English classes. Right? Or something like that. The question as to whether. This was a big one for Strunk. He didn't like this one. Just say whether.
Whether.
The question as to whether or not we should do this. It's just whether or not we should do this. Continue the sentence. Right.
I think you can just say whether we should do this. Like there is, the more you can get it done. I really like this one a lot, because I think the qualifier phrases really typically bug me. I'm like, you don't need it. You don't need it to get out most of the time.
It's just clunky. I have noticed too, Word has started catching some of them. So what is it the other day? It's more often than not. I think I used, and it had the little squiggly line, and I'm like, what? And it said like, you can delete this or use fewer words. And I was like, wow, you're so right. And I hate that you're right, because
I know
normally Word isn't right. Normally I catch it and I'm like, you don't know what I'm trying to do here, Word.
It's
just
true.
Stop.
Word has become very good at catching like qualifying phrases for sure. It gets me on them all the time. And I didn't think I used them that much because I don't like them, but it still catches me on them all the time.
Yeah, because we speak that way. And so I do think especially on your first drafts, this stuff is just going to come out. And I wouldn't try to stop it coming out in your first draft. Just be aware upon editing that you need to keep an eye out for these things.
Yes.
The reason why being, this one is just clunk. I hate this one too. The reason why
being that Mm-mm.
that I hate this. Like,
Yeah.
just stop. Just say because. Just say
I hate
because.
this because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these are just, there is a word for that. And I guess if there's one word for something, don't use the 5-word phrase for it.
Yeah.
Again, there are exceptions. And for a lot of these, dialogue is an exception.
Have
So
to
if you want to
say.
show that people are speaking this way, but otherwise, like the fewer the words, the better.
Yeah. You'll probably find most of your exceptions to these are best applied in dialogue, by the way,
Mhm.
which we've also said before. Like, if you're going to break rules, dialogue is usually the safest place to do it. Still do it
Yeah.
and know what you're doing and why. But your prose should largely be grammatically correct. Your narration should largely be grammatically correct, but your dialogue is more flexible because it should sound the way that people speak, and people don't speak with correct grammar all the time. So don't like go like crazy. You still want it to make sense. You still want it to be clear. But yeah, if you're going to break a rule, it's probably safer to do it in dialogue.
Also, this is just kind of a separate point, but if you are going to like pick a rule, so like the possessive thing we were talking about, right? If you're doing apostrophe or just apostrophe or apostrophe s, stick with it. Just don't go back
Pick
and forth.
one. Yeah.
Yes, pick one. And some rules are like that, where it's just like, I hate to say this, the Oxford comma is like this. Okay, if you just commit to not putting the Oxford comma in, it's technically correct. You just have to do in all of the sentences that need or don't need that last comma, right?
Yes.
Just pick one and stick with it. And I'm trying to think of any example, like if you have any kind of wordy phrase and you use it relatively often in the prose, maybe that's just a style thing and you are trying to indicate a certain voice there.
Yeah.
But don't use them once or twice, right? If don't say the question of whether once, say whether, and then if you really want to say the question of whether, make that like a character quirk or a narrator quirk or something.
Yes. I
So
agree.
that's also where some exceptions are going to be, but you just want to stick one and pick.
Pick one and stick with it. Pick one and stick it.
Whatever that is. Your pregnancy brain is.
It's catching, isn't it? It's contagious.
It's catching. Yeah, I can't think of words now. Good thing I wrote stuff down. So the next one, this was a strange one. I think Elements of Style was originally written in the 50s or something like that. So there are actually some outdated things in there, like what was it? Finalize. He said finalize is like not really a real word. And apparently it just became a real word because people used it because it was useful.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a real word.
Yeah, it's definitely a word now. So there are some things that do change over time. And I don't love that because I do like rules. I'm not Ash. But
See,
I
love
acknowledge
it.
I acknowledge that reality. But so I'm not sure how often people are falling into these issues still, but I'm going to say them anyway. And it's that words like anybody, somebody, everyone, everybody, these are single words. Don't separate them.
Yes.
So if you're saying, does anybody in the room have a stapler? Right? That's one word. Anybody is one word. Now, if you're saying, there's some body on the floor because someone is dead or something, then it needs to be 2 words because the body is the noun. But you wouldn't say, as 2 separate words, can somebody go get a doctor, right? That's 2 words. Also, so the Elements of Style that I have is the illustrated version, and it's so funny because there's like this really dark sense of humor in all the pictures. So one of the sentences he uses as an example is there was a stain on the floor, and then the picture associated with it is a legit murder victim that is bleeding out on the floor, and it's just casually put in there. It's
what
so
the heck? Oh,
and then
my
there's another
gosh.
sentence, I think on this issue where it said like somebody disappeared or whatever, and it's all these people in a row, and the next page is all the same people, but one is missing, and you're like, where did the guy go?
Oh my God.
It's so funny and I love it. Anyway,
that
everybody.
Is some Catherine humor right there.
Yes.
Grammar
everybody
and dark humor. Wow.
That's why I love the Elements of Style. That's probably it. So
that's
anyway,
hilarious.
Those are single words. And I feel like you can understand like anybody versus anybody. I think that's a clear distinction.
Like when you're like when doctors are working on cadavers or med students are studying cadavers, and it's like, oh, anybody will do. See,
Yeah.
two different words. Yeah. Same with everybody. Oh,
Everybody on the
everybody
tables.
has its unique needs or whatever. Yeah. Or everybody on the table in the morgue or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
You'll know. That's not that you should know.
Yeah. If you're
You
talking
should
about like
know.
corpses or like bodies in a room, like we need 10. But where do people use that? I don't know. Sometimes people say we need 10 bodies in here.
Mhm.
But that's going to be obviously different. And then if you're talking about people, just like generally
Mhm.
somebody like a non-specific person, right? Anybody would
Yeah.
do this, or somebody go do this. That's
Yeah.
their single words.
Yep.
Anyway, I digress on that one. I don't know how often people mess that up, but I do feel like I see that sometimes. So just clarifying that. And again, if you have it as two words, not only is it incorrect, but you also get to cut down on a word when you combine them again. So
Yeah.
the next one is mixing up your sentence structures in paragraphs. So this is just a generally good rule. Let's say that you have 5 sentences in a paragraph, and it can be one or more or whatever. But if you have 5 sentences, you should be utilizing at least 2 or 3 different sentence structures. So like where the noun is in the sentence and whether or not you have like prepositional phrases and all that kind of stuff. Because if you have the same sentence structure being repeated over and over, it sounds very sing-song and it gets boring and people stop paying attention to what you're actually saying. So you want to mix it up. And I think by nature of just realizing that if you have too many sentences that say, she walked to the door and opened it. He came inside and kicked off his shoes. They sat on the couch and drank tea, right? If you just do that over and over in the same sentence structure, it gets boring.
Oh, yeah.
But if you phrase it differently, you're inherently going to have some shorter sentences in there. So if you find that you're probably relying on a certain sentence structure more than others, but if you mix it up, you'll probably go less wordy just because you're less comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And you'll end up, and using sentence fragments can be a good way to do this. So like they walked through the door, sat and had tea, etc., etc. You're limiting those ands, which can cut down on the word count. And again, it needs to be within the style and it needs to be for a purpose. But if you find that all of your sentences tend to be kind of long or in the same structure, mixing it up with some sentence fragments or just some shorter sentences in general. Because when you have ands and buts and howevers and all that kind of stuff, it's an extra word. And unless that's really necessary to communicate the sentence, you can probably cut a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
very true. What else you got for me?
Water break. Sorry.
You're good.
I think I have 2 more. Let's see. Oh, okay. So assuming we're writing fiction, you're probably going to have some dialogue in there. And when you're doing the he said, she said at the end of or at the beginning of your dialogue, right? So the dialogue tag, as much as possible, if you don't have to say who's speaking, don't. So if there are only 2 people in a conversation and they're going back and forth, you don't need to tell us every paragraph who's speaking, because we understand that when you're changing the paragraph, it's a new speaker. And if there are only 2 people in the room, it's fine. Or if only 2 people are speaking. So let's say that you have 3 people in the room, but one of them isn't saying anything and the other 2 are going back and forth. You still don't need to clarify over and over that only those 2 people are speaking. You would just want to make sure that if the third person interjects, then you say, and also this is a different person. And along those lines as well, if someone's giving like a big speech, you don't need to illustrate multiple times in that paragraph who is speaking. So just pick one place. Usually I do it at the beginning. So like they say the first half of their sentence, and then I'll say like Georgia said or whatever, and then I keep going. Don't then like halfway through the paragraph say and Georgia continued, right? Just keep going.
Just
it's
people, they can assume.
We already know it's her.
Yes.
So as much as possible, cut down on he said, she said.
Fully agree.
Obviously,
that one bugs me.
Yeah, you need to be clear on who's speaking. So if it's necessary, then put it in. If there are a lot of speakers and they're going back and forth and it's not going to be clear, then don't feel weird about putting it in constantly. But especially, I feel like especially with like romantic scenes, there are only 2 people pretty much that are present for those. So you probably don't need to be using names very often. And you can also, if there are few people, you can have the speaker address the other person in the room by name. And then you don't need to show that they're the one speaking, because obviously the person is not going to be addressing themselves. So, and that's one word instead of 2. So
totally agree. And I think as an alternative, if you are writing like a group scene or a scene where there's more than two speakers or it's not as clear who's speaking, first of all, context of like what they're saying. Like if they refer to someone as mom, like, and
mhm,
this person only has one kid, well, obviously it's that person.
right.
So like that kind of context, you wouldn't need to clarify with a speech tag. If a group of people is all reacting or they're all talking on top of each other or they're all saying things with a similar meaning all at once, you don't need any speech tags at all. So that drives
Mhm,
me crazy too, when it'll be like a bunch of exclamations like, wow, said John. Yeah, what a surprise, she said, blah, blah, like that kind of thing. You just
mhm.
be, wow, I'm surprised. Oh
Yes.
no, what's going on? And those are just all separate little dialogues that are
Mhm.
going
If it
in a
doesn't
list
matter who's
because it doesn't
speaking.
matter.
Mhm,
Exactly. So that's kind of nice. But the other way, if you are doing a group thing or like a group scene with more dialogue than just two people, or even if it is with just two people and you want to be clear, you don't have to use just a speech tag. It's not the only way to imply who's talking. And context is also not the only way to imply who's talking. If you write an action that happens directly
mm,
before or directly after a line of
yep,
dialogue, your readers will probably assume that the person doing that action is also the one responsible for that dialogue. So
yep.
be like, she picked up her glass. Uh, wow, it's been a long time since I've seen you
Mhm,
here. Right. So we're going to assume that in the scenario, she is the one who's saying that because the action
right.
came right before she spoke, or it could come right after she speaks. So
Mhm,
that's one of my favorite tips as well. It's a great way to avoid he said, she said. It's
mhm,
also an amazing way to break up what might otherwise be like a long chunk of just dialogue. I've a lot
mhm.
of newer writers I've seen will just like it kind of ends up looking like a script. There's so much just dialogue. He said, she
Yeah.
said, and there's not enough action to break it up because you want to remember that even while they're having a conversation, other things are happening. The characters are
Mhm.
doing things while they're talking. They're not just sitting in like a blank space doing nothing,
Yeah.
speaking to each other. That's
Like
not,
robots.
yeah,
Yeah.
like robots, exactly. So there should be action happening in the scene
Mhm,
between the characters and just like because of the environment going on around them. So it's a great way. It does a great job of setting the scene. It does a great job of like building out the character business, which is that's the theater word for it.
mhm,
But it does a great job of like building a better picture of what your characters are doing while they're talking, which also helps to build their character and a better idea of like what this situation is like for them.
mhm.
And also it can imply who's speaking. So all around, I think that that's a great tool, and I wish people would use it more. And if
Definitely.
we between that and context and the fact that if there's just two characters, we don't need he said she said at all. I think we can largely get rid of he said she said. Like
Mhm.
largely.
In a lot
I
of
feel like
instances.
yeah, for the
I would
most
say,
part you can.
yeah, and especially when you have the he said and an action, you don't need the he said then. Like, if you
Yeah.
don't want to just like go in and add stuff all the time, you don't have to. You can certainly
Yeah.
use he said, but if you have both there, you can really eliminate the he
You can
said.
eliminate the he
Um,
said. Yeah, if
yeah,
there's action, you don't need the he said.
yeah, for sure.
So just know
Un-
that. It's
unless
nice.
unless the action is being done by someone who's not speaking, which you
Yes.
can do, then
Yeah.
you do need to say who's speaking. But if there's no one otherwise mentioned, readers are going to assume that the person in the paragraph that is speaking is also the one doing the action.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. And then last one. And this one is a weird one. And I don't know. I feel like my camera is not focusing on me. So
Yeah,
I'm
your
sorry if
camera
I'm super
doesn't. There you
blurry.
go. Oh, you're back.
Am I better? Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys who are on YouTube, which is probably like 3 people. But
Yeah. Hi guys.
anyway.
Sorry my eyelids are so swollen. It's a pregnancy.
It's this
I have not
condition I
been
have.
crying. It's just apparently your whole body swells. So I
Yeah.
look just very round,
Water
including my eyelids.
retention. Yeah.
Woohoo.
All right. So the last one is that carefully you can hyphenate terms that are specific to your world. So I think this is particularly true in fantasy and sci-fi. If you're
Hmm.
going to give certain concepts or things multiple word titles, you can hyphenate them. And then
Yep.
every time they're used, it's only one word instead of three.
Yeah.
So I'm reading this book by Scott Sigler. It's called Alone, and it's part of a series. It's a sci-fi series. And all of these kids have like these symbols on their foreheads. And so there's like circle stars and empties and all this kind of stuff. So the circle
Hmm.
stars is circle hyphen stars. So
Yeah.
instead of it being 2 words all the time, it's one.
Yeah.
And not only is that good for your word count, it's also good for your world building, because now that's a term specific to your universe, and
Yeah.
people will associate it with you, and with that world or whatever you're
Yeah.
going for there. And there are some debatable ones as well in like contemporary stories, like, do we hyphenate higher ups, like the higher ups at the company? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to, but you can. And
But
then
you
that's
can.
one less
And I
word.
would. I
Yeah,
would.
exactly.
Yeah.
One fewer word. I need to get better at less and fewer. Anyway, that was also a point in the elements of style. One fewer. But yeah, so if you feel you can, if it's like a title, or I don't know, just any kind of descriptor that's going to become regularly used, hyphenating it is
Yeah.
a good. And again, hyphenate throughout. Don't do it only sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you're hyphenating throughout, it's going to lower your word count a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And it's like you said too, it'll make it more of like it almost like makes the word or like the phrase, whatever, seem more official, like it's a real thing, like circle star with the hyphen. If you just say like circle star and there's a space in between, it's like those are two separate things already. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
If you
It
try
doesn't
to
really
put
mean the same
them
thing.
exactly, if you try and put them together with no space or hyphen in the middle of circle star, then it just looks like gibberish. I know some people sometimes do that kind of stuff, and it can very occasionally work with fantasy. Like Dragon Slayer is sometimes 2 words, sometimes it's 1 word, that kind of thing. Like it can occasionally work, but for the most part, I think that the hyphen is probably a safer choice. But circle hyphen star is now a completely new word attached to a completely new story and a completely new world building, thing. And AKA now basically this author essentially owns this word unless this word becomes commonplace elsewhere, which is great. And it's just like a whole new definition, because circle hyphen star is it basically makes it a brand new word. So if you have something that you're like, this is a new word I'm introducing because of my, science fiction or fantasy world, then love a hyphen for that.
Yeah, and I also read some Shakespeare plays to prepare for and come down from If We Were Villains. And there are some words that start out hyphenated and then they take the hyphen out. So like bedroom used to be hyphenated, right? Bedroom. A lot of compound words start out that way.
Yeah.
Bellboy is the one that Strunk used in Elements of Style, where it originally starts as like these 2 words, and then they become so closely associated and have such a particular meaning together that you hyphenate them. And then after they've been hyphenated for a while, people stop requiring the hyphen, and then you can smash them together into 1 word.
Yes.
So I don't know. I also think it's kind of cool that maybe like I could make up a word one day just by
and someday
like
it'll be a real word. Yeah,
exactly. That's a cool idea too.
Yeah, I agree.
Just an added bonus from trying to lower my word count as much as I can, but hey, I'll take it.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, that was all the ones I had. Is there anything else off the top of your head that you think is
there is absolutely nothing in or on my
That's
head except for these headphones. Literally nothing. Maybe some extra fluid. I don't know.
That's not good. Also, I was just gonna say sentence fragments. I know I said that earlier, but it is a separate point. So it is okay to use sentence fragments. You need to use them when the subject or the predicate is already super clear. So if you're already talking about a person, you can eliminate the subject of the sentence, or if you're talking about a concept, you can eliminate the verb part of the sentence. But they are definitely useful, and I use them a lot. So
they're so useful in fiction. It's another thing where like in any other type of writing, they'll get you for it, and it's probably not correct. But in fiction, it's usually acceptable to use sentence fragments. In that case, it's kind of all about the rule of clarity. Does it make sense? It's a sentence fragment. If it does, you're in the clear. I mean, I love sentence fragments too.
And it adds some emphasis on stuff too. So it's like whatever you fragment, now it's on its own, and that's going to create a certain kind of focus for the reader. So you also want to make sure that if you're doing that you want emphasis there, that it's not just like a random thing that you're trying to save words for.
Sentence fragments draw more attention and they have more impact. So hopefully that was your goal. If that's not your goal, then put a whole sentence. Don't make it a sentence fragment.
And I think a good general principle for all the rules or hacks, I guess we just talked about, you don't want to overuse them just to get your word count down. It needs to be because it's still actually useful to your story. So if it changes the meaning or if it makes the story worse, don't do it just because you're trying to get the word count down. And that kind of sucks because sometimes I take stuff out specifically to get the word count down, and I'm like, oh, I need the longer version because the longer version just makes sense. And if that's true, then okay, I need the longer version here. It is necessary to put this in the dialogue or to clarify who's speaking or to use not or whatever. But you can just eliminate it a lot of the time. You just don't want to force yourself to change your style or voice so much that it reads like a robot, because you don't want to edit the voice out of your writing. You just want to make sure that as much as possible you are using as few words as you can. Yeah.
I got you.
That's my spiel on it. Yeah.
Fully agree. Cool. Well, do you have any writing updates that you want to share?
I do. I finished the book I was writing again.
Oh yeah, that's right. God, you're crazy. You texted me that and I was like, she's out of control.
I know. It was so exciting. And this is the book I said was probably going to be around 60,000 words. I was wrong. I finished the draft at 82,000, and then I was like, cool, God. I'm going to do an edit and I'll probably get down at least to like 75. It's now at 90. So that didn't happen.
Yeah. I was like, no way. No way.
Yeah. I could use some of these tips I just gave you. I haven't done that edit yet, but the story's pretty good. I think I enjoy it a lot, and I'm excited. So I did my like one edit through, and now I'm giving it space. But it's weird because I make playlists specifically for the books I'm writing, and then I listen basically only to those to get into the mood and stuff. And I had put together a second playlist because the playlist I started with was so old that I was tired of a lot of the songs. And then I finished it within 4 days, and I'm like, okay, well, what do I do with this playlist now? Like,
never listen to it again.
I know. I still use like my iTunes, and I really like my song counts to be between 70 to 200. And I know that's stupid, but I like to categorize how much I like a song based on how many plays it has. So if I have it at 30 and I'm like, but wait, I really like this song, I like make myself listen to it more until it gets to like 100.
Oh my God. That is so neurotic. I love it.
It is. So that's what I've been doing. I've been like playing it through the night so that the plays will count.
That's hysterical. Oh, you're too funny.
Because I started writing another book, and so I need a different playlist.
You've already started writing another book?
I have. I wrote the first chapter.
Oh my God, and Catherine.
Here's the thing. I'm really excited about this, and I don't feel weird telling you guys about it because I don't think you guys can steal this idea because it's so hard. Okay. So I'm doing a story about a time loop, like Groundhog Day or whatever.
Oh my God, those stories are so hard.
I know, but I'm doing it from the point of view of someone that is not aware of the time loop. So it's literally just taking place over one day. And he's the guy that this random person comes to him and says, I need your help to fix a time loop. We are trapped in a time loop. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because this is the first day for him. And, this girl's like, we're on like 100 versions of this day. And he's totally oblivious. And so she's like, you're the last person I haven't tried going to for help to break this. So we need to figure this out.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited. It's going to be so hard.
Concept. Yeah. Yes. That is going to be so hard, but I love the concept.
Yeah. It's just going to be basically a lot of like her telling him things that happened in the past, but I don't want to make it too flashbacky because he's not there and it's not his point of view. And I'm specifically trying to do it from like, if someone came to you and said you were trapped in a time loop, what would it take for you to believe them? And like, would you actually, because a lot of times people who get caught in these time loops will make sacrifices, not realizing they're in a time loop. Like people will die. And you're like, okay, well, if you know you're in a time loop, that's reasonable because you know you're going to come back to life. But if these people don't know, why are they making these sacrifices? So I don't know. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be cool. So
that is going to be so cool. God, you're so impressive. You're like, I just finished this book. And also I started this new one. That's a really cool concept. That's going to be really hard to pull off. And you're just like, I got this. I'm excited. You're wild.
It's taking a lot of planning. So I did write the first chapter like 5 days ago, and I haven't continued because I feel like I need to have a good sense of like, what did the first day look like? Even though this person, the character is not going to have remembered it or anything like that. And then I need to know all of these different iterations of it, but I'm excited.
So. Nice. That's impressive. Yeah. Well, your effort has definitely made up for my lack of effort.
You're welcome.
Still have the 3 chapters that I wrote, which I'm still pleased with. I'm still thinking that I'm on track for my goal of finishing the first draft of the book I'm working on now by the end of the year. I just did not have a chance for the last 2 weeks to get to it at all. So hopefully over the next 2 weeks, I will, I'm going to stick with my goal that I said. I think I said I would write 3 chapters, 2 or 3 chapters. So I'm going to stick with that goal, that I will get that done. Hopefully, I'm going to need my pregnancy brain to ease up a bit though, or I'm not going to
Yeah.
get anything done. Like
I don't know. Does it fluctuate at all or is it just constant?
it was fluctuating, but for the
Mm.
last few days, it's been constant. So I'm like kind of terrified that this is the next 6 weeks of my life. And if that's
This is
the
your new
case, then
normal.
no promises. I'm really hoping this is not the new normal for the next 6 weeks, because for 3 days it has been, and it is hard. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to be dumb. If there's people out there that are just dumb, like
Yeah.
just working a little slower than everyone else, you all have my sympathy. This sucks.
I'm so
Everything's
sorry.
hard.
I
It's
feel
so
you now.
hard.
My sympathies are with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So that's my non-writing update.
Cool.
I can literally see like my eyelids increasingly like swelling since we've been on this call. So hopefully that goes
Yeah.
away, because otherwise apparently it could be a blood pressure issue. I don't think it is. I think I'm just tired and dumb. Like, I really think I'm just
I'm not
tired and
dying.
dumb.
I'm just tired and dumb. Dang
Yeah.
it.
God, leave me alone, everyone.
Uh,
Anyways, so that's my non-update. Is there anything
nice.
else that you want to share with the people, the good people of the writing community?
Yes, you people. I was just gonna also say I'm still sitting on that one full I have from
Oh
that I
yeah.
sent an agent, and I'm now terrified to check my email, but I have to check it because I've applied for some jobs and I'm like waiting to hear back from them. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
every time I try to go into my email, I have to psych myself up. I'm like, this could be a job interview, this could be a job rejection, it could be a book offer, it could be a book rejection, and I have to be mentally prepared to go into my
That
email
is
now. And
hard.
sometimes I think it was when I sent you the Catherine's Corner episode for last week,
Mm-hmm.
I had to get into my email to send it to you, and I
Uh-huh.
literally put my hand in front of the screen and didn't look at the stuff below because I'm like, I have to send this, but I'm not mentally there.
You are so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, that's still out there. I just wanted to
Yeah. That's
say
a
that.
lot of
So
emotional and mental fortitude you have to have at all times now. I don't
yeah,
envy
pretty
you,
much.
but you can do this.
Yeah. I'm
How
I'm feeling
exciting.
good. I'm just also feeling in denial, if that makes sense. So I'm like, I'm Schrodinger's cat, right? I
Uh-huh.
don't want to know. It could be good news, it could be crushing news,
You just
and
don't want
I
to
just don't
know.
want to know yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to know. See, I can't. I just never, I don't know how to me, that would make me more anxious, how you like will put it off and just
Mm,
not check it. I have to check it
yeah, I put it
immediately.
off.
Like, if I hear
Yeah.
an email come to my phone, I'm like, I got to check it. Cause I'm like, what if a package got delivered? Like, I'm like,
Mm,
I want to know what that was from.
sure.
I want to know. But
Yeah.
that's funny. Anyways,
But that's
anything
it.
else? That's it.
No.
Okay. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode and or you learned something new, and or you want to help me mess up the word imbroglio, you guys can reach out to us on social media. We are the Scripturient Society. I almost forgot the name of our podcast. That's where I'm at right now. We're on
Nice.
Instagram and TikTok, and both places are great places to be if you like to receive kind of like funny inside jokes for writers, and also motivation to keep you inspired to keep writing, because it's hard, guys, especially if you're stupid like me. It's hard. And we
Or
have
just
them we
pregnant.
have or just pregnant, either way, pregnant and stupid, I got your back if you are also in that boat, because I am, and the boat is very leaky. And yeah, anyways, I'm drowning. So
Oh,
if you relate,
if this is you.
if I'm describing you, get help. If I'm describing you, follow us. And if I'm not describing you, still follow us, check us out. If you guys have suggestions for an episode topic that you want us to talk about, or you just want to tell us what you're working on, you guys can do that. You can email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. That's our production company. You can also go to that website and check out our merch and learn more about the pod and how it got started. And finally, if you guys would not mind leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this, that would be wonderful. We see y'all's reviews. We love y'all's reviews. They mean, honestly, they're so helpful. They mean the world. And also sharing the podcast with your friends. That is the best way to grow, and that's how we grow our writing group. And speaking of, if you want to join that or check it out, you guys can do so. The link to our Discord is below. I think that's everything we've got for you guys. So until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.